Rainy Martin stood for so long after his embarrassing confrontation with Monique, he couldn't seem to overcome his anger about the past of Monica's cheating on him. Rainy sighed a deep breath and stopped recalling about Monica. He knew he became hard on Monique, but he can't help it. He asked himself, was I still hurting after all these years? He returned to his car and told Neil to return to the office. Ariane might be needing my decision over some papers she was working on. Speed up, Neil. Deep in his thoughts, he knew why he wanted to return fast. He misses Ariane. Minutes later, Rainy received a call from the Morrison Group auditing office. This is Rainy speaking. What? One of our employees is in a fatal condition. And who is this employee and where is his body now? In the St. Andrew Medical Center. Okay. I'm on my way.
Getting back to Eric's timeline, how was he brought to the hospital? After the masked man and his men took turns in putting him down, Eric lost his balance due to losing his strength that he fell down and simultaneously hit his head on a hard surface on the floor. Thinking him dead, the masked leader ordered his men to get rid of his body and clean the old cottage.
See to it that no blood stains, not even traces of him in his blood, could be found here. I don't want any mistakes, do you hear? And everyone nodded in unison.
And so the hoodlums moved fast, placing Eric's lifeless body in the vehicle's trunk. They drove to the remote area until they found a good spot to leave Eric's body, then hastily left the area. At that moment, simultaneously came by a man driving his tractor. When he found something was lying in an empty field, he got curious and was shocked to find a bloodied, lifeless body laying in the meadow. He jumped off his tractor, and fearing of touching the body, he instantly called 911. 911 responded immediately, and the police secured the place as they waited for the arrival of the ambulance. The medics examined Eric's body, then they rushed him to the hospital. As soon as they checked his pulse and found him still breathing, then the doctor put him to a ventilator to help him breathe for a chance to survive. And that was where Ariane learned that he was found and rushed to the hospital fighting for his life. Ariane couldn't take the sight of Eric badly bruised and almost unrecognizable. She felt so bad and guilty for having not done anything to save him. Ingrid at the same time felt the same way for Eric too, and she was helpless in calming Ariane. It was right timing that Ray Martin arrived, and he comforted Ariane, who was so emotionally distressed, especially when the doctor announced Eric's death. The police officers came to give their report to Eric's supervisor, but Ray Martin faced them and said that he is the CEO of the Morrison Group and asked for the result of their investigation.
The police officer said, "We discovered that Mr. Eric Stanford, also a colleague in our force, was thrown to the field where his body was found, and he must have been tortured somewhere else. The investigation is still ongoing, and we will not let this case close on us since Eric was one of us."
How could that be? A police officer working in my company. As an auditor, what was his business in joining my auditing office? Was there someone he was following here in my company that I am not aware of, who sent him here to do what? Investigate.
What puzzled him was why the investigation of his father's death was closed unsolved, which was why he wanted to get the answers by getting close to your office, Mr. Rain Morrison, since his dad was a bodyguard of your father.
Rainy Martin stared at the police officer the longest time, then said sarcastically, "So I am his suspect now? That's what you're pointing at, and now you're accusing me of having something to do with his death, is that it?"
Now that Eric is dead, the table is turned to Ray Martin Morrison as a suspect. How could Ray Martin prove his innocence on Eric's death? Part 20 follows.